Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you. I feel like Representative Williamson here. I'm out of breath. To the what committee is the Ways and Means Subcommittee here. We're going to go ahead and get started. And Representative Scoggins, I think you're up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I bring to you House Bill 137, and this bill just simply would waive any income tax from that originated from the condemnation of any property by the state, county, or city government. So if you get your property taken away, is it okay? Okay. So if you get your property condemned by the state, city, county, it would not be subject to any income tax from the state of Georgia. That's simply all this bill does.
Okay, questions of the author? Yes, sir. What number? I don't guess we're 2. All right.
Thanks, gentlemen, for bringing the bill. I think I understand what you're trying to do. If somebody has an adverse, talk to me about the way this reads, because you're right. It's a very simple paragraph. If there could there not be a situation where a condemnation is created to avoid taxes?
I would say yes.
Okay, wouldn't you think we would want to tighten up on that?
Well,
I'm talking about an artificial creation of one where
if somebody had a buddy who worked in city government.
right, and
okay,
the city
yeah.
was going to do that, and I'm trying to sell it anyway, but if y'all condemn it now, I don't have a tax bill.
I'd be willing to accept any kind of
I don't have an answer for you, sir.
Okay.
I was just
Okay.
Yeah.
But we talked about that with legislative council, and they didn't have an answer for that. So,
Good
and I do
question.
have
Trust and,
Representative Tyler Paul Smith that wants to
trust
speak
and
to the bill
verify.
too. I'm sorry.
Trust and verify. Okay.
Anybody else? Questions of the author? Representative Paul Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. When Representative Scoggins brought this bill, I immediately wanted to sign on. And today I'll tell a little bit about my personal story. As a 10-year-old child, the property that my family had lived on and still lives on for 5 generations was condemned by the state of Georgia. It was seized to widen the road that, and some of the old maps was supposed to be the western bypass for the state, connect I-20 to Interstate 75. And so as a 10-year-old child, the biggest storm that we had ever faced, we'd been through Hurricane Opal in '95, lost a lot of big oak trees. But as my father always remembers, the biggest storm that our place ever saw was the state of Georgia coming in and condemning this property. And Mr. Chairman, Chairman Martin's point is very well taken. That is a concern. And we even saw it in that project over 20 years ago now. But I'm here to tell you about the people that didn't make a deal and wasn't trying to pad their pockets. We had to take the state of Georgia to court and get our house back, which we had to then move into the back part of the pasture. The house that was built by my great-grandfather in 1926. And what I can tell you is I can't speak for those who might, for ill gain or abuse of government, try to pad their pockets. I'm here today to speak for those that are not trying to do that. They're not trying to work government to their favor, to sell property that they couldn't, or to have property condemned that they couldn't otherwise sell. I'm here today for those people that find themselves in this situation. Remember, these are not voluntary sales of property. You're having this property taken from you by the government, and then the government's going to tax you on something that they're taking from you. This is just absolutely ludicrous that we do this. And so I'm here today just to give my personal account and to stand up for those that are innocent in the whole situation. Haven't come from that. That's the reason I went and became an attorney. It's the reason that I'm in politics, because I saw how the system was abused by those. And yeah, sure, this same situation occurred. Those that were able to have property sold that they couldn't, or condemned that they couldn't otherwise sell. But I'm here for all of those that were not in a position of power to benefit from the abuse of that power. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is really a question more maybe for the bill author. Just on when it says such taxpayer on line 12, for example, would that include a corporation that's a taxpayer? Do you know? And more to the Representative Tyler Paul Smith's point, obviously these adverse condemnations, we're assuming it's not a engineered condemnation.
Right.
Could there be a possibility of having an upper limit? Because we get to condemnations. I know the Beltline has been a big one in the area here, and it's a wonderful resource. There's some condemnations of multi-million-dollar property. And sometimes that condemnation also may have a warehouse nearby that's now going to be apartments. It's
Right.
very lucrative. I would wonder if, number one, does taxpayer include a corporation as a taxpayer? Or is that just an individual, or is that understood? This may be my ignorance.
That's
And-
not the intent of the bill.
Right. Oh, I understand that. I'm just wondering, when we say taxpayer, does that include an LLC that owns property and gets it condemned? And then second, could possibly an upper limit if what you're really trying to describe is a homeowner or a farm owner
So
who
you're
has
asking if we could put a cap on the
Well,
amount?
potentially, if when we're trying to at least address the problem Chairman Martin brought up, just as a consideration.
I would be open, to any suggestions the committee might have.
That's all.
So this would be in a situation where you actually made a profit on the property, because you're talking about capital gains tax here, right? So
You're
you would
saying make a
you'd be
profit.
realizing income. So what I'm trying to understand is that if you take a loss on the property, then you're not going to have any capital gains realized. But if you're in this instance, you would only be seeing a profit on the sale of this, correct?
If you got you're talking about if you got a below fair market value for the property of what you paid for the
No,
property.
I'm
is that
just
what you-
saying, if you bought a piece of property for 20 and it's condemned and purchased back at 40 is what you're saying, you wouldn't have to pay the 20 capital gains.
Right.
But if you it was condemned and they took it for 10,000, you don't have a need for this. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And other members? Oh, sorry, Representative, Chairman Martin.
But sure, I think we're just having a hearing on it. This makes absolute
is.
sense to me because what I see in Mr. TPS's thing, Representative TPS over there, Tyler Paul Smith. We're going to get you nicknamed that before you get out of here this session, one way or the other. No, his point, if it's been in the family farm for 5 generations, I mean, your basis on that was a nickel an acre. I mean, or $1 an acre, right? So, I mean, your basis was practically nothing and you just wanted to keep it. And now you're having to realize a gain and we're trying to do it. So I understand that. Remembering that it doesn't matter in Georgia whether it's a long-term or short-term capital gain, you just have to pay your capital gain as ordinary income, which is 5.75, and we continue to try to work on that. So as if we're working this, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask our attorney. I seem to remember something in history that there was a tax advantage to actually going through a condemnation. You're paying 23.8 to the federal government. So like the idea, I think we need to tighten it up, make sure it's not, cannot be trifled with, and also to see what it does, how it goes hand in glove with the federal tax policy around on this. Seems
Okay.
reasonable.
Chairman Houston.
But I tell you, I would not be a happy camper if the government took my property and then I had to turn around and pay taxes.
Well,
And this is more to a house than what, that when you move a family out of a house, it's more than the money you're getting back from it. You take a 10-year-old boy, it's devastating to have to move you out sometimes, places you live.
Yes, ma'am, you're looking at me like I advocate for doing that, and I
No.
don't. No, I know, Representative Chairman.
You got to take care of the least of these sometimes.
No, you're right. Well, and also in the condemnation price, do that,
Yeah.
they take into account, I believe, if it goes through condemnation, not just the price of the real property, not the price of the personal property on it, but in the trouble you can cause, you can actually ask for that as part of the process. But no, I agree. I mean, the gentleman has a great
I think
great
that's a
point
great
here.
point. I
It's
don't know how
just
we
a shame that we
down.
can't take it to, take it up a level to the federal level, because it's the federal
We should
government
somewhere
who
we can
does
work it
much of
out.
it.
And so the people that weren't taking advantage of the system, there's always gonna be somebody taking advantage of the system. There's always somebody smarter than us. You can believe that.
Other members? It's a very, very lively discussion. Representative Fry? Are you on?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's a great idea. It's a moving story that you've told for sure. I'd like to see it separated out to individually owned versus corporate. What the chair brought up there, I think that's an important distinction to make.
Anybody else from the committee? If not, were there other members of the audience that might like to speak? I don't see ACCG sitting on the edge of their chair, so is there nobody else that wants to speak to the bill? It is a very good point. I must admit, we just got to make sure that we get to and this is a hearing only, Mr.
Just
Chairman.
one last point. There's nothing in this that would encourage any kind of a condemnation. There's nothing, just by avoiding the taxation. Where our current guidelines, and my understanding is Georgia has fairly tight guidelines on the definition of public use, for example, that some other states, maybe a Supreme Court decision allowed something more lenient than maybe we would want. We're not in any way changing or encouraging condemnation by this, is my understanding. Is that
It might happen, but we're not encouraging it.
okay? Well, thank you.
Would y'all be willing to do the thing that Representative Fry suggested?
Yes, ma'am.
I agree.
Good point.
I would support that.
Okay, anybody else on this hearing today?
It was your idea. It was gonna- I'm sorry.
Thank you so much for coming, Representative Scoggins. and,
Thank you. I
TP
appreciate your time.
as well.
Thank you.
We will follow up. This is an issue that I believe has a solution to. If I can get the chairman to talk a little bit about Senate Bill 87, if you would. I'm sorry, we do have the senator here. I didn't see you there.
He is.
So would you come up to the mic, Senator? That one right there is good. Yep. Forgive me, I didn't see you.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to defer first to the chairman and let him go first.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senator Red. I know he's worked incredibly hard and we've talked a great deal about how to make the most out of the Senator Jack Hill Veterans Act. Take this off. What I believe the intent of the original bill was to try to help veterans and specifically disabled veterans. Is that fair to say, Senator?
Yes, sir.
And when we take a tax dollar and we defer it over, as is the case with several different entities within the state, it kind of has to be done a little bit carefully. And I think what we've done here is we've made sure that it stays within the confines of the state of Georgia through the Technical College Systems Foundation. I leave it to you. I know we heard from a number of veterans, disabled ones last year. So we've heard the general ideas behind this bill and what we're trying to do, and let the senator expand on his bill from that point forward. And then if it's the will of the committee, I'd love to see this one move forward.
Senator Rett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, this bill named after Senator Jack Hill, what it does is people on their state income tax refund, they're able to donate $1 to support disabled veterans, and this goes towards the foundation with the Technical College of Georgia. How we came up with this bill, Senator Jack Hill, he was a mentor of mine, and we worked on this bill together, and he would tell me what to do, and I'd go do it. I'd say, yes, sir. And we came up with this bill, but something happened. One evening I was talking with him on the telephone, and we finally kind of had things worked out. But then the next day he passed away. And so the next day I thought about it, and I said, well, it'd be a good idea to name this bill after Senator Hill, because he's a veteran and I'm a veteran. And as you know, old veterans don't fade away. They continue to find a way to serve. And through this bill, I thought it would highlight his efforts serving community and country and give an opportunity, even though he's transitioned, to continue to serve other veterans. And that's basically what it is in a nutshell, sir. And I want to thank the chairman, Mr. Blackman, for working with me on this bill. We worked on it quite a bit. I have to laugh also because I remember Senator Jack Hill, you know, after the day was over, we would meet, go get something to eat and play some blackjack. And I should have known better than that. He's a numbers man. I hardly ever won, you know. Then he said, well, Doc, you just got to go out there. You got to keep at it. So if you can find consideration to pass this, you know, I'd appreciate it. And if anybody has any questions, the chairman and I are glad to try and answer them.
Before we go there, this is one of the most honorable men I think that's ever served in this General Assembly. So everybody's going to light up. And of course, we're all part of this to finally get, after hearings and things, to get to the point that we are. And he was a very honorable man. And of course, it does say a whole lot since he was a colonel, I believe, in the reserves over in Garden City for years and years. So is there anybody on the committee that wants to say anything without a motion? Is anybody in the audience that would like to speak to the bill? If not, I will entertain Chairman Martin for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, if we're in the posture, I'd like to move due pass on Senate Bill 78 by this committee's substitute LC 43-2232S.
We have a motion, a second.
I'm told I may have been backwards on that. I may have said 78, but the LC number is correct. Senate Bill 87.
Today is dyslexic day for those of you that aren't sure.
Sometimes dyslexic, other times backwards, sir. Yes, sir.
Correct, Representative Corbett. So today is dyslexia day. We have a motion, a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the bill passes, and I'm honored, Senator Rett, to get this bill out for you. And I appreciate your tenacity to keep going.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
Senator.
Thank you all.
If there's no other business before the committee, we are adjourned.
Thank you so much.